This is the commentary video for my Lighting for Design submission. My game is a point and click adventure style here. Fairly easy to do with the top down template and then just rigging the cameras up by trigger boxes. The basic objective of the game is you've got these 4 rooms around here, each of which has a puzzle to solve and a switch to pull, which will move the lights on this statue to reveal what would be a hidden door. So first of all we have a look around, as with any point and click adventure game. We've got some of the text here, subtitles just to let you know what you're looking at, what needs to be done. So we've got the first switch in here which needs fixing. This is the basic room, which was kind of a good start, I think. I feel like most players will be guided directly towards that door because it's the first one in their line of sight. So they come in here, see everything here, padlock on the front and it's shut. So obviously we can't solve it now. We need to find something to open up the toolbox to get to the switch, and the only other item in here is this torch here. So again, come in handy later. Creates a light in front of the player. Probably should have held on to that for later, but I'll explain that where it needs to go. So next room you'll be drawn to is the one to the right. One in here, directly across. Again, purely for player convenience sake. 2 fairly simple items in here, all lit up for the sake of this prototype. In a fully fledged version of this game, there'll be a lot of other items, red herrings, thing to sort of throw off the player, but I feel like just to get the point across it was good enough just to put the basic items in. So check the TV here, again, because I'm in the room, flickering a bunch, TV's playing up, wonder if I can get anything to do to fix it. In a point and click adventure game you're most likely drawn towards wanting to get the toolbox, but again we haven't found anything to unlock it yet, so we look around some more. Find a clock here, bolted down to the table, so you can't pick it up, but obviously there's something that needs to be useful later. For the sake of moving on, we'll just can't check anything else out in there. Before I go into, actually no, I will do this room first. So you come into this room. I'll go to the bedside cabinet first because I realised I picked the torch up too early, but that's fine. I can explain everything later on. Check the bedside cabinet here. Find some bobby pins, get them up here. Again, in a fully realised version of this game there'll probably be an inventory system, something we can keep track of all your items. I did have a play around with both adding the red herrings and an inventory system. The inventory system, unfortunately, I couldn't quite figure out. I didn't spend too long in it, but I certainly tried. And the red herrings, I feel like when I put some in, but then I thought in terms of play testing I feel like that would throw a lot of people off, as not too many people would be familiar with standard point and click tropes like that when play testing. So and this would be somewhere through a game, so you wouldn't get a lot of time to sort of realise, oh, not all of these items have use, so I left them out for the sake of this project. So now that we've got the bobby pins, we can try the toolbox again. And you can now pick the lock on them, pick the lock on the padlock. Now have the toolbox to use. Use that over here on the frayed wires on the switch, and get that working again. So that's the first puzzle basically. Everything is presented to you, or everything that needs to be done is presented to you, enough to go when you eventually go up to the bedroom and check the bedside cabinet, it being one of 2 things you're drawn towards. You pick up the bobby pins and think, right, I can use that on the padlock downstairs. So now we have one switch facing towards the light. We still have the toolbox as well, so we can have a look at the broken TV and see if we can do anything with that. Again, the idea of the toolbox sort of came from many point and click tropes where you sort of have an item that has multiple uses, something that's very generally quite handy. So now we've got the TV displaying a time here, and again, because we've wandered around the room, we know there's a clock here, so it displays, you know, standard time format, so you might as well try it with a clock. This here was meant to be another sort of minigame puzzle thing where an actual clock face would appear on screen and you adjust the hour and minute hands to 3:06, but unfortunately I couldn't get that figured out, so for the sake of getting it done and for the sake of a prototype, I just had the player or the character automatically do it for you. There is one other puzzle like that which I will get to, but we have another switch here. This one isn't so easy. It's not going to be fixed immediately, and you can't use the toolbox because the wires are frayed on it, and you can't just smack it with a hammer or a screwdriver. We need something else to hold the wires together. So now that we've done that, we can head upstairs here to this dark room. Now, I should have come here before I picked up the torch. I should have explored everywhere without the torch, because this room, everything in here that you tried to interact with before having the torch would just say it's too dark in here, but I jumped the gun and grabbed the torch early. But point still stands. You need the torch to be able to explore this room, to be able to interact with everything in here. It is pitch black when you come in here. And while you can see outlines of things, the implication being that you can't really identify any of them without the torch. But we have the torch now, so we'll get this here, bust someone's head, and then a button within it. So we investigate the torch, or the switch here, and there is a keypad on the side of it. Now this was the second puzzle that I did once again attempt to do via blueprints, and unfortunately realised it was, you know, too much to take on for a project which is essentially a prototype. But there are numbers displayed around the room, as you can see, quite obvious, even lit up in the dark. This is something that, you know, wouldn't be so obvious. In a fully realised version of this game, you would see the numbers around the room, maybe have a hint as to which order they'd go in, or files or something, or some red herring where you can maybe glean something from it. But you just go around and look at the numbers in the environment and then put the code in on the keypad. But for the sake of this prototype, I just had it so you click on the numbers, you get all 4 of them, and then go to the switch and the character will just punch them in at random and get lucky. So that's the second puzzle done, and while we were back there was another interactable here, visible. Again, fully realised version. There'll be more drawers to throw you off, maybe to search around, but we have electrical tape. So now that we have that, we of course already know there's one other thing, or one thing that we can really do with the electrical tape, with the frayed wires that are down here. I did take a lot of. I'm quite an avid fan of point and click adventure games. I've played a bunch of them, and they sort of follow a lot of these tropes where you explore around, get clued in by the character who's sort of explaining everything to you. So you'll get well, like in the situation here where he says, I need something to hold these together. You get context clues from the players, and when you pick something up, you go, that's where it needs to go. You get clues from the game as you go along, not too obvious, but enough to sort of, when you pick up the right object, you have a fairly good inclination of where it needs going. So this is another thing down here that I elected to ignore earlier, is what's meant to be a stray plug sticking out of the bed. Now, I had the torch already, but without the torch it says it's too dark under the bed to be able to identify what it is. But we click on it now, we can obviously see that it's a stray plug, or what is a placeholder for one, which reveals a secret door here. And this will take us to our final puzzle of the game. Now, one of the things I had to think about while developing this mansion was camera placement. So whenever the player character enters a series of trigger boxes that are placed around the room, it switches between cameras, But I had to think carefully about placement, enough so that everything in the room that should be visible is visible. They always have an exit. They're always able to get everywhere they need to go. And it was, I mean, in the case of this room, it was more or less my fault for making it a bit too crowded. It was very difficult finding a right angle for these cameras while still keeping the puzzle here, the solution to this puzzle, which is, well, now that we're on it, it's a pattern-based puzzle. So you've got these two series of dots here, the pattern or the box in the center. If you were to click on the table, you get a better view of them. Hit buttons and they light up. All of them do. But the solution to them is up here. So we've got the buttons here on the top right and the bottom right and the middle left here. So if we hit those in, and then the two down the middle and the one in the bottom left there, there, that triggers a sequence revealing the next switch. There was, during playtesting, an issue in which players, in which players were slightly thrown by this puzzle, but because beforehand there wasn't the exit key there, and it wasn't evidently clear at first which direction they should be hitting the buttons from. There was a lot of issues with camera angles, and beforehand you would just click around the outside to get out of here. But I thought by adding the exit button here, while the wording could have been done a little bit better, it sort of explains to the player, this is the correct way around, this is up, this is down, this is left, and this is right. And from that you can glean which way this pattern should be input. Again, that was handy for playtesting to be able to distinguish that. But now that that puzzle's solved, we can hit this switch, which is just done as it is. That brief figure you saw walking there is a glitch. I'm not entirely sure why he's there. I did attempt to fix it, I couldn't. But that is all four of the puzzles of my mansion solved. Fairly simple, but that's because I know what I'm doing when playtesting. There was the desired result of people playing it who, you know, took time to walk around the mansion, get to see everything. I think the torch maybe could have been placed in a different location or hidden a bit better, because they get it immediately, and then, because again the kitchen is the first thing you're drawn to, they get it immediately and are able to, you know, the torch is one of the first items they picked up, so that probably could have been placed a little bit better or hidden away in the kitchen a bit more. Maybe even amongst some red herrings, which again, a fully realised version of the game would take a lot more exploring. Maybe there could have been some backstory bits around the place, but like I said earlier, for the sake of clarity and, you know, getting the project done and making it easy to play test with players, I left all red herrings and all that out for now. But even without those, I still think the feedback I got during playtesting was quite positive. And you go through here now with the lights illuminating a doorway and get to the end.